France, good day. Jean Paul Sartre, a French resisting a fighter during the occupation, German Nazi occupation, and a great philosopher, a writer, Jean Paul Sartre. So he had written a book, a short story, the name of which is Living to Die, or The Wall. The name of which this story is Divoire by Jean Paul Sartre. And it is a very remarkable short story written on the background of Spanish Civil War, which started from 1936 to 1939. The early 20th century, we see Europe was defined by suppression, dictatorial power, ultra-nationalism, otherwise known as fascism. Benito Mussolini was the first leader under this ideology, paving the way for future dictators such as Adolf Hitler. Their systematic murder of millions of people forced other world power to step in and ultimately sparked World War II. In Spain, the Falangist party reigned with the same far-right fascist ideal as Mussolini and Hitler. Those who opposed or even just suspected of opposition were executed by the masses. In The Wall, the short story Divoire by Jean-Paul Sartre, or Sartre in French, juxtaposes a so-called free man with three men on death row to insinuate the idea of existentialism. Although it appears only three sentenced to die are prisoners of the fascist regime, Sartre implies that social death gives every man a life sentence. In the beginning of the story, Sartre presents the reader with three prisoners and doctors studying their psychological responses in their last hour of life. The three dead men walking and one man who could not think about tomorrow. The narrator, Pablo Ibita, still sees the doctor as someone who is alive, someone who has a future, and he envies that. It is not until later that he realizes the doctor is no more alive than he is, and his inmates are. Despite the decades the doctor has yet to live, he holds no more significance than the man with only hours left, with only his death to think about. Ibita comes to the conclusion that several hours or several years of waiting is all the same when you have lost the illusion of being eternal. By using the word waiting, Sartre highlights the fact that everyone has limited time on earth. The one truth behind life is that it ends. And this passage, Ibita no longer envies the doctor for the time he has left. The several hour he has is equivalent to the several years the doctor has in relation to all of the eternity. This perspective that a lifetime has no meaning if constricted by social norms and existentialism. The reader is slowly introduced to this idea until Ibita, one of the three prisoners, blatantly state that he has lost the illusion of being eternal. Only now, with his life on a countdown, he is able to conceptualize the reality of death. The illusion is referencing the misconception people have about life. It does come to an end and the world will carry on. So what is the point of living if you are not living purely for yourself? Sartre chose this character with sole purpose of proving their significance. Why does he choose three prisoners instead of two or even five? Maybe more than there. Three is much to handle. and any less is too little. Or maybe the three prisoners present a sense of irony to the Holy Trinity. The Trinity consists of protection, guidance, and help from the divine. Trapped in a cell, waiting to be shot, there is no protection, there is no guidance, and there is no help. He puts these three men in a room with a doctor doing research, a doctor who is almost likely wealthy, well taken care of, and trying to help society better understand the mind. Everything about his life seems significant. A doctor who is most likely wealthy, well taken care of, trying to help society better understand the mind. So, if in the long run everyone is dead, he's spending his life conducting research for nothing. With all of his extra time, he will amount to nothing more than three dead men in front of him. Ibita starts to lose his sense of himself. Slowly he is detaching from himself because of my body. Sartre intentionally repeat my body here to emphasize this detachment. Ibita has to remind himself that he is still living in his own body. I saw with its eyes. I heard with his ears, but it was no longer me. Here it is clear that Ibita sees himself as temporary. His body has just been another illusion of life. It gave him a false sense of control until one day someone else took control. Sartre used this feeling to represent the prominence of social death during the fascist regime. People were not seen as living, breathing humans. Government did not see the execution as murder of innocent people, but instead the removal of unnecessary deterrent object from society. Ibita, losing his humanity, shows the reader what his mindset truly means. If a man cannot see even the significance of his own life, then he cannot see the significance of anyone else. Sartre is able to give the reader sense of deterioration of Ibita's mindset just by adjusting his language. Eventually, Ibita stopped describing his body as my body, but instead as it. He describes what it is doing, but at the same time shows that he has no control. He says it is quite para, but what quite mean? This is not a normal way of describing the body, but Sartre chose this word for a reason. His body no longer had a purpose. His stomach has not rumbling to tell him he should eat. His bladder did not hurt to let him know he had to urinate. His eyes did not fall to help him go to sleep. There is only silence. His mind no longer acknowledged his own body. So all it could do was exist. Ibita described it as a filthy presence against him. The word filthy described both its physical state and Ibita's feeling towards it. It is true that he is dirty, but saying that it feels like he is tired of enormous vermin shows such deeper resentment. His body is a predator that he cannot run away from it. It is deteriorating as he gets closer to death, but there is no chance to fix it. The focus on the physical effects of Ibita's mental death calls attention to the overreaching theme of existentialism. Although he has not yet been executed, Ibita is dead. He no longer has control over his body solely because of his mental state. He has realized that his life has no meaning, and even if he has given the chance to live another day, he wouldn't. In the end, everything and everyone is gone, and he will have no impact on the universe, and his mind shuts down, so does its connection to his body. Jean Paul Sartre wrote The Wall to make statement about his time period. As a fascist regime took over Europe, people lost the concept of being alive. Society began to see others as object instead of human. Those subjected to their country's cruelty lost their own humanity along the way. Knowing that death is looming offers a completely new perspective on the world. Pablo Ibita played this role, showing the reader what happens when it becomes clear that eventually everything comes to an end. The focus on leaving a lasting impact is pointless and frankly a waste of time. It is a perspective that many would see as radical. However, it is a perspective that many may never be able to conceptualize until they too must wait their own death. Sartre's goal was to unite people against the fascist regime through existentialism. Everyone has a limited time on this earth, and succumbing to the standards set by corrupt government is not the way to spend it, whether by murder or a complaints. They rob people of their humanity. The only way to fight this is to live and to live for yourself. This is the story of the wall and the analysis of existential philosophy through the eyes of Sartre, while describing these three prisoner who is waiting for their death row, and one of which whom was given pardon while he had told about the whereabout of one of his friends who were on hiding, and subsequently his friend was apprehended and he was pardoned. The other two of the prisoner were executed the next day by making them standing against the wall. This is the story of the wall, written